Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at Wheel Talk Podcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Okay. What is your name?
What is your favorite color?
What is the airspeed velocity of an African swallow?
I have no idea.
I don't either. We're live.
We're live. Is that one of your favorite movies?
You know what? It's no, but it's like the most quotable movies.
I just don't like Mel Brooks. I don't like. It's very hit or miss. I don't know.
That's not Mel Brooks.
Wait, isn't it?
No.
Is it Monty Python a Mel Brooks movie?
No. Monty Python is Monty Python. It's English.
What?
Please don't send him hate mail.
I thought it was. You
Nope.
telling me it's not?
Nope, Monty Python is Monty Python.
Oh my gosh.
It's Search for the Holy Grail by Monty Python.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. We want a shrubbery.
Okay, it's not. Is it kind of... Maybe it's because it's got people that I think are in there. Is it sort of that kind of movie, though? It's kind of got that kind of comedy, though.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely Mel Brooks-ish comedy. Okay. You know, like the directors, it's like...
That's why I confused it. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the English version of Mel Brooks.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, I mean...
Kind of. Meh.
Maybe it's just the humor. I don't know.
Meh. No. No.
All right. Epic fail.
Well, you know what? What would life be without epic fails? Really?
It's all right. I honestly thought it was Mel Brooks the whole time. I didn't realize that. I learned something today.
I worry about you sometimes.
I mean, is that the worst thing to not know?
Not when it comes to 90s R&B, but when it comes to movies.
Hey, man, I've been hitting the Boys II Men station pretty hard lately.
Have you?
Fucking end of the road. Man, been belting it, baby.
Oh, God.
How's your day going?
How are you? Oh, my day's going okay. I was going to tell you something. So last episode we talked about what I was going to do for moving forward with the shitty cups. And I realized at work, I'm just like, I feel like I've been trying to find a groove at work, and I was doing really well for like a real short time. And then it just kind of like plummeted. My ADHD is like really kicking in, and I don't want to get medicine. So,
did you have a groove at some point and there's like a transition that it like slowly shifted, or?
I had a groove at some point and then it went away. So, but when it went away is when we started having, lunches together as a group. All the employees have lunch together, which I wouldn't give up for the world. So I figured out that that's really what's kicking me. Like, it's just kind of like.
Do you mean you're buying your time until lunch kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. Like, we used to have lunch at 2, and that was fine. But now we have lunch at 1. Because I used to get in at like 11, and then I would work until 2, and it was fine. Now we have lunch at 1, but I get in to work at like 10, and then I fuck around for like 30 to an hour, and then I finally get to work. And so what I've decided, and I like this is going to be good. This is my first day okay, of doing this routine. I'm waking up and I'm going to go to my personal studio at 9:30 to 10, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
And that's
And
a
then-
typical what time you would normally roll into Graves Co.
Yeah, like 9:30, 10, somewhere in there. And then I'm going to work in my personal studio until 12:45, and I'm going to drive over to Graves Co. and eat lunch with the crew at 1, and then start my day at 2, and then go till 8.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, which is great in a lot of ways, because I only ever work 6 hours. I just spread it out over a really long period of time. I never want to go to my studio after work, because once you're done throwing 100 pots, it's like, fuck. And usually I just go to my studio and stare at a box for like an hour. And so going to the studio first, I had so much energy this morning. I was like, yeah, I can get
In
shit
your personal
done.
studio?
Yeah, my personal studio. It's like,
Plus it narrows in your focus. Like, I would imagine at your studio, you're by yourself. And then once you're at Graves Co. past like 5 or 6 o'clock, you're probably by yourself too, right?
right. Yeah. Most
Yeah.
of the time. Yeah.
Less time to fuck around there.
Yeah. It's the problem is that I really just love my coworkers so much, and we just have such a great time. And so,
Yeah.
and I get really, really distracted. And I don't want to take medication. Like, I've been on all the ADHD medication, and it really fucks up with my, like, self.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It changes you, you know? So, now that I'm actually not depressed, I'd like to not be on ADHD medication. So, anyway, that's how my day went, and it was good. I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done, but I was more focused than I normally am, and it was my first day trying this, so I'm giving myself some grace.
Do you mean getting done at your studio or at work?
At work.
Okay.
Yeah. I only made 75 pieces today, but I'm giving myself some grace.
Yeah, it's like you're just starting something new. And
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Did you feel like it was a good amount of time to be at your personal studio? Like,
I did.
It's not too much. Like, it's not 4 hours, and you're not killing yourself to get up in the morning to get there.
Right.
Did you feel motivated to, like, go there in the morning?
Yeah.
I feel like I would struggle when there's not people depending on seeing me, that it would drag me
Yeah.
a little bit to get there.
No, it was okay, because I'm so used to going to work at that time that it was easy to get up and leave.
Okay.
You know? And if I give myself a time to go by, and I have accountability buddies to be like, are you awake?
Nice.
So, but I think it'll be good. Yeah. And if I choose to not go into the studio, I can just go in at 1, but then I'll make myself feel like I wasted time. So that's also good.
Yeah. And I saw you
Yeah.
did a live today, so that was probably a motivating factor, right?
Yeah. People, I don't know if anybody here knows this, but I always used to do lives just to motivate myself. So I did that today with pinch pots.
Where do people
And it
see
worked.
those at?
Huh?
Where do you typically do those at if people want to
Oh,
watch?
I do those lives on Clay Buddies
On Facebook. Yeah.
on Facebook. But I don't know if I'll keep doing them on Clay Buddies or if I'll do them on TikTok or Instagram. I might switch it up.
Yeah. That'd be fun to
Yeah.
just throw them in there every now and then.
Yeah, I feel like I need to get my TikTok back up and running, just because if I'm going to start selling shit again, it'd be nice to have that in my back pocket.
Plus, the prices are pretty good for that group.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Nice.
How was your day?
Feels like the end of the day. I feel like I've been running around all day. It was overwhelming, to be honest. Work has been work. It's been a little overwhelming. A lot of stuff I'm doing, and then, I'm helping like mentor somebody underneath me. So there's a lot of back and forth there, and making sure that I have stuff for them to do, which is its own undertaking. And then meeting with them daily, and just same old stuff. And it's probably been a lot of the just build up from the mystery box sale as well. Like, my whole night was packing and getting mystery boxes out the door last night. So, I'm kind of itching to get back in the studio, but we're also, like, trying to, we're going to close on the house here in the next couple days, hopefully. And then start moving, so that's going to start up.
It's September 22nd when we're recording this. That's when he's hoping by, like, the 26th, maybe.
Yeah, 24th, I think, is what we're
24th.
hoping for,
Yeah.
so... Yeah, so that's going to start, and then I just got back from a clay lines meeting, so, that's its own thing. So I think I'm getting to the point where I'm like, it's like a perfect storm sort of things that are just culminating at one time. That's overwhelming, but, yeah. I feel like I have to, this is where you see what you've committed to, and, like, you don't want to say no sometimes, but you have to, like, figure out what your limits are and what you can confidently commit to and deliver and execute on without dropping the ball. And like, I set such high standards for myself of what I can accomplish that it's like, at some point there's like, the stress is bubbling,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what today was. So we're hitting the end of that, but there's certain priorities that are most important to me, and figuring out where I want to focus my time, I have to make some, what's the word? Something with a C.
Calendars?
No, not calendars. Make some concessions to what I want to commit to and what I feel confident in committing to, because, like, if we're thinking longer term, like, goals or whatever, like, there's certain things that I could be putting my time and effort into that could actually be working toward those goals, and there's certain things that may not be. Like, I've drawn back on teaching, for instance, in the last year or so, and that's been like, probably better for me by not overwhelming myself, and I've made that distinction of, like, okay, I'm going to draw back with this. Here's what I can commit to with, like, teaching date nights or whatever, but it's not a huge commitment. And then I'm kind of hitting that point with, like, the clay line stuff, like, what benefit is this helping myself, and who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for myself? Am I doing it for the local community? Is it, that's one of the things I'm coming up on with, like, being the president of it, that I'm, like, coming to situations where I'm thinking if I want to keep doing that role or if I want to shift. And, like, the podcast is really important to me. I want to have consistency, have this every week. I see myself having more value for people, and, like, I enjoy doing this more than I enjoy doing other things. And, like, this is a thing that I'm going to keep a priority.
Totally.
We're going to show up every week, whatever capacity this is in. And, like, I'm interested in growing this and doing more with you to figure out what we can get out of it and benefit more people. That, this is a priority. So I got to make those, balance out what I can spend my time doing. And as the business grows, it's getting tighter and tighter with my time. So it's getting tougher to draw those lines and, like, cut certain things out or draw back on certain things, because, like, I try to put 100% in when I'm doing something, and I can't say, like, I'm not going to do X, Y, or Z, because, like, that's just not who I am, to say I'm going to, like, half-ass something. If I'm in that role, I'm going to do it the best I can, but, it's stressful.
Yeah, you are only so much. You can only do so much as a human.
Yeah.
You are not a superhero.
No, I'm not.
No. While he coughs it out, you should cough out whatever you've got in your throat. And I'm going to talk about how my out-of-state best friend, this is random, but my out-of-state best friend texted me recently that on 2 episodes ago, I think, I said, apparently I was trying to describe a wheelchair, and I said adult stroller, and Ryan was like, do you mean a wheelchair? And now everybody in the studio is like, Josie's in her adult stroller right now. And I'm sorry for not being politically correct, but I think we can all agree that that's a hilarious term. I'm not sorry, actually.
I feel like a stroller you have to be pushed by someone else.
That's a good point. It's not an adult stroller.
Like kids cannot roll a stroller themselves.
Right. I mean, we should not.
We're overthinking this, but
no.
You were just trying to explain what was in your mind, and you didn't know the words, so that's what you said.
Yeah, and also I told Ryan that I'm like the Jar Jar Binks to his Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he doesn't know what that means, but I think everybody else will.
And then we were trying to think of comparisons of other characters, and then she brought up a Lord of the Rings reference, which I've never seen, so another negative on my part. But
yeah, I said I'm the Pippin to your Frodo, and you were like, I don't know what that means, and I'm like, fuck. Who's the goofy guy in Harry Potter?
Like Ron, or the
I'm the Ron No, I'm the Ron to your Hermione.
The Ron to my Hermione. Maybe. Ron's kind of the comic relief, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, he's the comic relief.
Bloody hell.
Anyway, just forget everything we just said for the last 3 minutes, and then we'll move on.
You brought it up.
I know, I shouldn't have brought it up, and I apologize.
It's fine. There's no malicious intent here. You're just...
Somebody's gonna get mad at me.
Well, the people that reached out to you were kind of laughing it off, saying that they can't believe you were trying to explain that, but...
What, Jen?
Yeah.
Oh, she thought it was fucking hilarious. So did Josie, who is in the wheelchair at work. Anyway, moving on. Okay, we're going to do a what if. What would you do if?
What would you do if?
What would you do if your clay towel or apron gets covered in dry clay from cleanup and you want it clean again?
This time of year it's getting a little colder, but I would typically just take it outside and use the jet setting on a hose and rinse it out with a hose. Get all the clay out of it on the sidewalk, and then I'd throw it in the washer.
That's a very, yeah.
I'm sure some washing machines can handle getting the clay out because it dumps all the water out, and hopefully there's clay in there, but it's still going to go down a drain somewhere. So,
yeah. Yeah. So, I'm going to say 2 things. When I was at the studio back in Washington, I had a portable washing machine that I would use for my regular clothes too, but I used it for all the towels in the studio. And what's great about those is that they have a hose, and it doesn't really get stuck in the bottom of the washing machine, but you can put it all in a bucket. Like, you can put the drain water into a bucket, and so then that can settle down, and then you can pour it off. So if you have to wash a ton of towels, that's a good way to do it sometimes.
So, like, throw, like, a 5-gallon bucket. Like, mine drains into my sink, my utility sink. So, like, throw a 5-gallon bucket in the utility sink and then, let the water drain into that, settle, and then pour off the clean stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
So you can do that, but I would do it with a portable washing machine that's, like, if like, you had a studio or whatever and you're trying to figure out how to wash your towels. But at work, we have a big 5-gallon bucket for washing our hands in, and I usually dunk it in that at the end of the day because we dump it off every day and, like, refresh the water, and it's magic. And I always just dunk the towel in that bucket and then I wring it out best I can in the bucket, and then I'll wash it out in the sink, which has a Glaco.
How's that the next day? Is it like all crusty and like kind of weird?
I have 3 towels, so lots of my things we have a lot of 3 systems.
Okay. So you end up washing those at the end of the week in like a real washer?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just rinse them out.
Oh, okay. But are they good to like wipe your hands on, or are they like really dry and like they're not
like a cactus?
Yeah.
All towels are like that if you don't dry them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're leaving them out to dry, right? You're rinsing them and then you're just hanging them, but they're like kind of stiff probably the next day, right? They're a little crusty.
I hang them up on the cart, and what I found to help a towel if it's super crusty afterwards, like when you don't dry it, is you take it outside or whatever and you whip it.
And there's dust coming out of it, kind of thing?
No, not necessarily. Like, it's clean, but like have you ever not dried a towel? It feels like a fucking cactus.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that in the studio, but that's why I was asking. But
yeah,
if you don't like throw it in a washer and like properly clean it, it'll be kind of like gross. Like it's not the nicest to like wipe your hands on when it's all crusty like that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I have low standards.
No, I was just asking if you cleaned it at some point. Like, do you clean the ones...
they get cleaned eventually, but I just
like once a month or something?
I don't know. Not very often. We have a lot of towels.
Yeah, I would imagine a studio that size, you probably have a lot.
But I just cycle through the same 3, and I just clean them in the bucket. It's not like I'm wiping, like, I wipe my hands on it a little bit, but it's just sitting on top of my lap, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not cleaning my towels and stuff, but like once a month maybe. But I'm also not like wiping my hands on towels a lot. I might wipe them on my apron, but I'm generally wiping my hands on my slip bucket. And that's how my hands are getting clean. And then when I wash my hands off, like, I've sponged my hands in the water, in the throwing water.
Yeah.
And then I'm, like, washing my hands at the utility sink. There's not much clay that's left on my hands at that point. Yeah. That I can't, like, rinse that off. It's very minimal. So.
Yes.
I mainly just use the towels for, like, pulling handles and stuff. I'll wipe my hands on towels for that.
Yeah. A lot of people do a 2-bucket system where they wash it in the first bucket, get all the big stuff on, and then wash it in the second bucket. That gets all the little things that are left over.
Yeah.
And then I hang it up on a hook and I twist it like a bunch, and that's what wrings it out.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right.
What's your review?
I have a review. This is a short and sweet from K Camaro, 5-star. The best pottery podcast ever. Hey guys, you brighten my day every time I listen in. The podcast gives me so much useful information in a casual conversation format, which is not easy to do. Keep up the good work.
We've succeeded.
Woohoo! That was back in 2020.
Nice.
Thank you for that.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Alrighty.
Okay.
What are we talking
about tonight?
I feel like I gotta say the topic, right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to ask. Ryan, what are we talking about tonight?
Okay, we've been putting this off. I think we're gonna talk about... I listed this as how to keep up with your expenses and income throughout the year. And then I'm also going to share some of how I use Google Drive and other tools to keep up with my important business documents and processes to, keep myself honest and bookkeep, basically. So.
Did you create a note for this?
I did not.
Oh,
This is from the fucking hip. From the hip.
I can ask you questions. Okay, well, Ryan's going to talk the most.
How do you want to start with you? How do you keep up with your expenses and income? Like, do you document it somehow? Do you try to do everything through Square? How do you keep up with it?
QuickBooks.
QuickBooks.
Yeah, I am trained in QuickBooks for the most part, so that's how I do it. Not everybody uses QuickBooks or knows how to use QuickBooks, and it's kind of a steep learning curve. So yeah, I haven't done anything with it in this year, and I also feel like QuickBooks kind of like keeps you. It's like a fucking cult. Like QuickBooks is a cult.
Do you mean like because they have so many features that you just start using and you're like, well, I don't know how to use this feature outside of QuickBooks, so how would I do this? I'm losing
No. Well, yeah, but also like you're like, how can I leave?
like how do I transport all of my data somewhere else and actually make it manageable?
Yeah, and like what happens if I leave and then I get audited and then I don't have QuickBooks and then I have to show them all these things and like
I'm sure there's a download your data option.
Yeah, of course there is, but then that's a fucking pain in the ass and like yeah, so anyway, I feel like QuickBooks is a cult and it's totally like the monopoly of business.
It sounded like you just explained Apple but replaced it with QuickBooks.
I did. It is. I did and it is.
You can't leave iPhone or else it's complicated.
It's too expensive, except for Apple at least is user-friendly. And their customer service is semi-okay. Yeah, no, it's, yeah, like everything is automated. Like I buy something on my business card, it goes into QuickBooks.
So it's linked with your credit card or your your business related card, and then does it automatically categorize it and like bucket it in the right spot and all that?
Most of the time it does, but you still have to go in and like make sure it's right,
Yeah.
Like overcheck it.
Mint's kind of like that where you
Mint is owned by Intuit, which is also QuickBooks. So
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mint is less for the small business person. It's more for like the everyday person that's trying to budget.
Right. So Mint, Intuit, and QuickBooks are all the same company. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, and it reconciles, like you have to go in and like reconcile everything, but yeah, it's pretty self-sufficient and it works really well if you have the business to work with it. I know that like Rebecca uses, it's like QuickBooks completely fucked her over, which it's totally fucked me over as well. But just like a abusive relationship, I stayed. And
so she doesn't use QuickBooks anymore, or she does?
No, I don't know what she uses. Yeah, she doesn't use it anymore. She uses Gusto for us, for paying us. So I think there's just like a lot of different funny story.
There's all kinds of third-party services and software.
Yeah. A quick funny story. Abby from work came up to Allie when we first started using Gusto, and she was like, Allie, somebody named Gusto paid me $1. And she's like,
who is this Gusto?
She's like, who is Gusto? And Allie was like, you mean Gusto? She thought she was getting like hacked by this like Spanish.
They're trying to make sure they got the account right with that $1, and then they're like, all right, I'm in. Let's fucking do it now.
So
better watch out.
Mr. Gusto. Anyway, continue. How do you, and let's hear how you do it.
Google Sheets. I'm one step up from pen and paper, baby.
Also a cult. Google Docs.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm baked in there. Yeah, so I keep track of my expenses, my show fees, my income. Income including like wholesale orders, consignment orders, online orders, in-person shows. And what that means is I manually am putting the data in, and then it's a nice, concise file that has everything at a glance. It's not the prettiest thing to look at, but it is what I use, and
you never know.
It's very detailed.
Some people think spreadsheets are sexy, Ryan.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's only as good as the data you put into it. So you have to be very diligent about making it a habit of inputting data. Like you have QuickBooks that's logging everything as you make payments, and it's linked with your card. Mine is not linked with my card at all. I am manually inputting the data on a probably semi-daily basis. Like whenever I get paid for something, I get a check in the mail, I'm immediately signing the check, snapping a photo of it, depositing it, and I'm putting it right into my spreadsheet so that it categorizes everything. And then when it comes time to like pay my sales tax, something that I input is this considered something that needs to have Kentucky sales tax paid on it or Ohio sales tax? I'm right on the border of Kentucky and Ohio, so I have a lot of shows that I do that I need to collect Ohio sales tax. So that's like a thing, and I need to be able to reconcile that when it comes time to pay taxes. And and then there's a lot of math that goes into it that calculates, like, at this point this year I started implementing a like how much am I making monthly, and then I pulled in numbers from last year and I have like a monthly comparison for last year. So like, am I making more money or less money than I did this month of last year? And then it like cumulative adds it up. And I've kind of built on this probably since I started using the Google Sheets like 4 years ago, maybe. I think 2017, 2018. So like when I really first started selling, I started using Google Sheets. And when I got going, it was very simple. It was like I have an expense sheet, I have an income sheet, and then I have a balance sheet, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. What about miles? How do you track miles?
Yeah, I have a separate tab that's mileage. That one's still very manual. The other stuff that I just talked about is something that I've simplified, and we can talk about. The mileage is still very manual. Like I still put the date, and then I'll put the from address, which is usually just my home, and then the destination, and then I jot a note and put the mile number. I don't know. There's like tools and apps and stuff that you can like switch stuff on and off, and it'll track it for you and track your location and add the miles up. I just feel like that's a hurdle, because if you don't do it in the moment,
Sorry.
If you don't do it in the moment, then it's like, oh, I forgot to do that. So how do I get it logged? I'm sure you can manually log it, but you have to.
Okay.
You have to be intentional about opening it, or else you like have it track you all the time. I don't know. How do they work?
Ironically, I have an app called Hurdler.
What? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Is that what it's for?
Yeah, it's for tracking, and it tracks your whereabouts all the time. So if you leave and come back, it always has it. So like it remembers where
here
you
to
were.
there, and it's like, these are the miles. Do you want to add this as a deduction?
Yeah, and you swipe left for personal, right for business. So you can like, yeah.
I guess I'm just anti-tracking me all the time. I'm sure there's things that track me all the time, but I don't want to like know about it like that distinctly.
Do you have Google Maps?
Yeah, but
Shut the fuck up.
I don't want to have to do. I don't know.
So anyway, if you want an app that tracks you automatically, that is the one that I would absolutely recommend. It is not cheap. It's $60. It has saved me.
Holy shit!
Yeah, but
is that
you know
the main
how
thing
many...
you use it for?
Yeah, that's the only thing I use it for. Do you know how many miles I get every year? Last year, my mileage was like 10,000 miles.
Actually, that's true. I mean, you are saving, and it's a business expense to pay for the app, I'm sure, right? So
yeah.
There you go. $60.
Worth it.
I didn't even know they had... What'd you say?
Worth it.
Worth it, okay. I didn't even know they had apps, like an iPhone app. I didn't even know they had an iPhone app that cost $60. Holy shit. I thought $10 was a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. But, well, I think you can get a free version. But if you want, it's like an in-app subscription or something like that. But yeah, also, I think that like QuickBooks will do it for you as well. And Square might. I don't know.
I think QuickBooks Self-Employed might have that option. I feel
QuickBooks
like I've heard
definitely
Kurt
does.
mention that before.
But don't fucking use QuickBooks Self-Employed. That's a fucking terrible idea. Don't fucking do it. So
why?
It's
short version. Is it not sophisticated enough? It doesn't meet
it's not
most of the
sophisticated
needs.
enough. It's going to fuck you over in the end. It's just like if you want to do it all taxes.
What if somebody
or
has it
anything
right
like that,
now? What would you say
run
that
away!
it is that it has shortcomings of, so people can look into it and understand why it might not be the best option?
The shortcomings that it has from the last time that I looked at it. So I haven't looked at it in a while, but from the last time that I looked at it,
What is a while? Like 2 years, a year,
like 4
years?
a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
From the last time that I looked at it, it doesn't track. Like if you're in a state where you need to track each county's taxes, it will not take that into account. And then, pun intended. And then it's hard to file your taxes at the end of the quarter. So that was my, what?
Your sales tax.
Yeah, that was my biggest beef with it. It might have changed. It just seemed way too simple for me at the time. Now, I have always had pretty complicated businesses, like doing wholesale and stuff like that. So if you're not doing that, it might be
So
fine.
if you're doing like in-person sales in specific counties, it might not be that bad?
Maybe. I would just really look into it and make sure it does everything that you need it to do on the books side of things. So.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know about this hurdler thing. That's funny
Hurdler?
that it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I manually track them. I think there's a opportunity to improve that. I mean, I don't mind the hurdler thing. I mean, you just got to go in. I don't leave the house that much, so that's probably where it's like, you know, I'm intentional when I go do something for business related, so that like it's manageable.
Yeah, but it's different for somebody like where I was, where it was I was.
You have to drive to and from work every
day.
single day.
Yeah.
Right now, like, do you track like driving to and from work, or is that different because you're not going to your studio and it's not like small business?
I haven't done almost anything related to small business in the last like 8 months, 9 months. So no. But once I start actually doing stuff again, I will. And
Okay.
technically, I'm a contracted employee. So technically, I could count going to Gravesco as a business expense. But
Yeah,
I
you could
won't.
probably. Okay, I was gonna say you could probably just project that out. So you
Yeah.
go there 5 days a week or whatever, you know.
yeah.
At a minimum, you should be tracking your miles for sure. I mean,
At a minimum. You can either
Definitely.
track your miles or you can track your expenses on your car. And if you have an old car and you know you're going to have a shit ton of expenses, that might be the way to go. but you cannot flip back and forth. You can't just like 2020 say, I'm going to track my car's expenses because I know I'm going to have a lot of fixing to do. And then in 2021 say, I'm going to track my miles. It doesn't work like that. You pick one, you stick with it.
is that just for complexity, or it looks shady on your taxes?
It looks
if you
shady.
change? Yeah.
It looks super shady. You pick one, you stick with it.
Yeah.
Like you could switch once, maybe. But
Yeah, I
then
mean, you
gotta-
could switch to miles once you're like, okay, the car expenses is fucking outrageous. Like, keeping track of that,
Yeah.
and you got to like percentage it out based on how much you use it for business versus personal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I Google Sheets go to. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that I can educate this, like talk about this in a way and show people and like demonstrate what I do and like give them, here's a sheet that does a lot of shit and you can start using it and it's going to do all this math for you. And do like a little instructional workshop or something, and they can take the tutorial and take the sheets and go run with it. So what I've done in the last year or so, probably the last couple of years, I actually integrate Google Forms with the sheets. So I fill out a form that has all the pertinent information for an expense, for instance. It has a date field, it has a who I bought from, like vendor field or whatever, the amount I spent, and then the reason that I spent the money on that. I fill that form out, I submit it, and it puts it in the Google Sheet automatically. That way there's no formatting issues. I'm not manually like going in on my phone into like cells of a Google Sheet, which is fucking terrible. Or on my computer. Like I can log this anytime I want because I could fill out a form on my phone easily. It's not difficult.
That makes so much sense. That's so smart. That's
it's really just the sense of like using technology all the time, so that it's like if a hurdle is I got to sit down to my computer once a month and be on my login expenses for like 3 hours. Fuck that. I'd rather log an expense, take 2 minutes, log it, it's done. And I do that like once every 3 days or something. Or I do it for once a week, you know.
Cool. So we're done with this podcast, right? Like that's all we need.
All right, done.
That's it.
Bye. See ya.
Bye. Okay.
Mic drop. I do the same for the art show fees. That's what I consider like my fees category, which is like Etsy expenses, my show fees, whether it's an application, if it's a booth fee. And the reason I categorize it and I group it, that's the other thing I didn't mention. I also have like a grouping of what, besides the reason I like categorize it, so that when it comes tax time and I get to the Schedule C portion, I can categorize everything. I can say I spent X number of dollars on shipping, X number of dollars on legal, or like, you know, like professional services or something, like tax prep and whatever. And then there's like, you know, meals and entertainment if I'm traveling for show or whatever. So, you know, categorizing things as you go does not become so cumbersome by the end of the year because you've already got it categorized. You just got to do the analytics in the sheet to look at the data and then add it all up. So it's using like functions and stuff to do that. That might sound like gibberish to some people, but that's where I hope I can make this something people can use and actually help them out. So
when's that going to happen?
I don't know. It keeps going down the priority list because I don't have any fucking time to do anything.
Well, how can you talk about it on the podcast if you don't have an example when it releases?
I'm just putting it in people's ear so they can want it, and then they're going to ask me for it. I mean, I've done a couple posts like showing people what I do, and like I get questions all the time, and they're like, "Yeah, I totally want to see that. Can you do a demo of that?" And it's like I really want to do it. It's one of those things I need to spend time on the computer prepping something, coming up with like a curriculum or something of what I want to talk about, how I want to break it down. You know, do I want to do like a workshop that's like, I'm much more, you know, I have a general outline of what I want to talk about, and then I go kind of from the hip and just talk about it, and people can get their information that way. But if it's like a very focused video, making sure I cover every single thing, and you get a nice deliverable with a PDF of what you need to do, like that's going to be like 10 hours of computer work. And yeah. Haven't done it. Haven't prioritized it yet, but I don't know. We always say maybe when it dies down. It never dies down, but you know what that means. I mean, when the winter comes, I don't know.
When the winter comes.
After the holidays, I don't know. Oh man.
After the holidays, then you have to prep for the summer.
And I gotta prep my presentation for ClayCon West, which is gonna happen like 3 weeks before we do it.
Fuck.
And we got pot swap coming up.
Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up.
Oh, I feel like the real benefit for this is the income portion of the spreadsheet, because there's so many ways that you take in money. I don't know. I mean, you probably had a bunch of accounts. How did you break down the different ways that you were making money? And did it help you at all to like know where your money was coming from?
Well, Square goes into QuickBooks. I tried to make it as simple as possible. And I think that's a super great, like, if you get anything from this, trying to make everything financially as simple as fucking possible. So I would use Square and QuickBooks. That's it. I don't use PayPal. I don't use fucking Venmo. I don't nope. No. Like if a buddy wants to send me
the
Venmo
convenience, the convenience
taco,
for them
that's great.
Becomes terrible for you because
Yeah.
you have to put them all together and actually keep track of it.
Yeah, if people are doing PayPal, nope. Sorry.
You'll take the 3%. You'll take the 3% from Square to keep it in the same bucket and not
any day of the
things.
week. Any day of the week. I would even rather take card than cash sometimes, just because at least it goes in the books. I don't have to worry about it, and it goes straight into my bank account. Like if I have to start taking cash to the bank to input cash, I'm gonna be annoyed.
And some people think that if you get cash, you don't have to report it. Do this shit right. Report it, and don't be like, I'm gonna keep up with what I did in cash and what I didn't do in cash. And you're like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna pay you in cash because you don't have to pay the tax. But it's like, I get it. You're at a show, they're paying you in cash, but it's like, I still need to pay the tax man. It's not something I'm barely keeping up with, keeping track of everything as it is. You think I'm gonna start divvying up what's cash, what's not, and what I need to actually report, what is real,
First of
what
all,
is not
Ryan,
reportable, and it's
bless your pure heart. First of all,
no, I'm not. No, I'm just saying
Second of all, you don't keep track of cash you pocket. What cash? What cash did you pocket? You pocketed no cash. There was no cash that was pocketed. Nobody knows about that cash.
How do you know how good you did in the year if you don't report any of that? It's just floating. You have no data around it, so you don't really have an idea.
What cash?
It sounds terrible.
And that's all I'm going to say is what cash.
What cash? There you go.
What cash?
That's
if there's no cash to report, then you don't know how much you made. That's it.
That's one way to do it. I may have started doing that early on, but then it's it becomes a point where you can't keep up. I can't keep up, and the data that I like to keep around what I actually sold at a show or something, I can't manage all of that because I log I log every single transaction from a show in Square, whether it's cash or card. Yeah. And the data around what items sold is more beneficial to me than saying I'm not going to log that cash transaction. That's how I look at it. Because the items that are selling are way more important to me, so that I know what's best for the business to make more of and see what actually did well and what didn't do well and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's how I look at it.
I feel that. I completely understand your analytical mind in this sense. Not everybody's analytical.
That's true. People are going to be like, spreadsheets, get the fuck out of here.
Not everybody cares about the last cent that they spent or bought. And that's okay. And a lot of people don't know how much cash they have in their pockets at any given time. It's fine. Okay, moving on. Do you also do the income as a form too?
Yep, that's a form. It's a more detailed form. It has actually, I could probably share this on the screen and just show you the form. So if anybody wants to look on our Patreon, they could see what I'm looking at. Hint, hint.
See, I told you needed to start sharing your screen. And you were like, no, I'm not going to share.
No, I thought you meant sharing the budget stuff, how it all comes together. I mean, I could briefly share that if people want to see that. All right, here we go. All right, this will be beneficial. If people do want to look at the Patreon, they can see this. I'm comfortable showing it to the Patreon group because I know it's a smaller group, and it's fine. Okay, so this is the expense sheet. It's basically what I talked about date. Vendor is just who I got it from, the amount, reason, explaining what it is, and then category is a drop-down list of specific options that I could categorize as expenses. And below that, I kind of generally talk about what they are.
Oh, nice. So that
what each category is.
Yeah. So really, there's only 5 sections in this.
Yep.
Date, vendor, amount, reason, category. And then they all transfer to a spreadsheet.
Yes.
And I would imagine the spreadsheet. Okay.
And things like date, like some of this may not be necessary, but I feel like it is good when you look back at your, debit card statement, for instance. You can look at which dates you did things and where the vendors came from and what the amounts were for. I mean, dates aren't necessarily needed on this form. You can just do who you bought it from, what the amount was.
No. Dates are necessary.
But yeah, dates are good.
Dates are absolutely necessary.
I feel like this is the bare minimum of what you need. Mm-hmm. They all come together. You can see all the different categories and stuff, and then they come together in as a running total. It adds everything up through a function. Mm-hmm. And then I have something very similar for the fees. I just save these as bookmarks on my browser, whatever. Fees are the same thing. Date, vendor, amount, reason, category. This one's a little more narrow because it's like application fees, rent. I would consider my booth fees. I consider that rent because that's kind of what it's called on the Schedule C. You could also do, like, if you pay rent for your studio or something like that, like that would fall in there. All the Etsy fees. I actually started doing that this year because it would be good to break down the Etsy specific fees. Because before I was just doing one bucket fee of like Etsy fees, and some of them are categorized as like shipping and like marketing and stuff like that. So there's different categories. Office fees would be, anything specific to, buying packing material or actually maybe it was something else. I don't really use office fees in this one. I use office fees in the expense section more. Yeah. So that's kind of what this one is. And then that comes together in this one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of that...
It just looks like a typical spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm describing it for the people at home. It's nothing special.
Yeah, so I'm not manually putting this stuff in here. I just have a function that imports the values from where the form submits to. So the form is not necessarily submitting right to this page. It's actually in a different area. And then I just import it.
It's okay. I didn't understand what he said either. We'll just trust you.
And then it just puts all this in here. So you can't just manually go in here and start typing something because it'll break up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You have to go into the form and do it every single time.
Okay.
That's what that means. Okay. And then this year I started putting it all together so you can actually count up the different categories of expenses that you spent money on and the categories of fees, and then it breaks it down by a percentage. So, 51% of my expense category is supplies and materials.
Yeah.
And that would be
you should sell this.
And then you can see the same for, the fees category. 50% of it is Etsy shipping fees.
You should sell it for $5.
$5. I feel like that's reasonable.
$5.
What would I sell? I would have to sell the video explaining and how they can customize, and then the form, the Google Sheet template.
The form with the tutorial.
Yeah.
Well, you could just have the tutorial for free and then have the form be the money. And then, because the tutorial, if somebody wanted to make this all up, it would be a process. So it would be worth the $5 just to buy it.
Yeah. And it's customized for me. Like, I've made things that are very specific to what I want to know about.
Yeah.
Some people don't care. They just want something logged. Like being able to have the form and put it into a spreadsheet is
Yeah.
enough. They don't really care about the analytics part of it.
Right.
Okay, the income one is the powerful one. It's got date, vendor, buyer, whoever, got it from, or I got the income from. The amount, if it is a square amount, I include the fees in that number because I
Okay.
will have a separate expense at the end of the year that I can just go into Square and look at fees for the year, and I'll just put that as one bucket
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
fee because it gets really hazy to start breaking down the fees and stuff. And then the via section is just like where it came from. In person is like 1-to-1 with somebody, or like a commission. I might mark that as like in person. Show, gallery, Etsy, class, Instagram, or Facebook. So class would be like teaching or a workshop or something like that. And then the next category is income type. So this is retail, which would typically be at a show, is what I consider retail. Direct would be 1-to-1. It's usually in person and direct. So it's like if somebody comes to my studio and buys something, then I'll kind of label it as direct. Or if it's like my mom purchases something, it doesn't really fall in one of these other ones. I've got consignment, wholesale. Usually those can't go hand in hand with gallery. Gallery is either a consignment or a wholesale. And then online, this would tie in with Etsy, Instagram, or Facebook on the previous group. Teaching goes with class. And then commission is usually in person. There's a lot of overlap with these two. You could probably just combine them into one if you didn't want this amount of detail. But with the galleries, they tend to be consignment or wholesale. So that's why I kind of split it out.
No, it makes sense, yeah.
But it's just more detail. The item is just describing what it is. Payment method, cash, check. Direct would be if it goes directly into my account, like Etsy does. Or if it's something that goes directly in my account for some reason, Square. Square, PayPal, Venmo. I do take those payments sometimes. And then if it's considered something that needs to take Kentucky sales tax on it or Ohio sales tax.
Okay.
And those are just like true, false kind of yes, no
I
options.
should have asked this before we even started this, but can you take screenshots of these and put them on the Instagram when we release the episode?
Screenshots of the form.
The form. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. That'd be great.
Screenshot a really long form.
You just do it in 2 sections.
All right. And then this is where all the numbers are going to come in. All right. Y'all are going to get a glimpse, but so this is how it all comes together. It's got the dates, who they came from, amounts, where it came from, gallery, Etsy, whatever. The type of
Sale.
payment it was, sale, consignment, wholesale, commission, whatever. Description, payment method, and then the sales tax stuff. And then it's going to running cumulative total. And then this is really the part that I've built out a lot this year.
You're basically QuickBooks.
Yep. Except it's all in one area. I don't know that
This
you have
is
to
your
click around very
profit and
much.
loss.
Yeah. I feel like I need to hide this or something, but I don't know how to. Yeah, whatever. Here, we'll do this. Y'all get a glimpse, but we'll here we'll
Well,
put
we've
it.
already seen it. It's fine.
You've already seen it, whatever. All right. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so the I don't care. Let's do this. All right, so you got the different types of sources I get the money from. You can see the total and you can see the percentages. So this gives me an idea of 53% of my sales up till this part of the year have been from shows, is how I read that. 23% has been online. And that's where I kind of use some of my, goal setting as well as just getting an idea of top level, where's my money coming from? And then you can look even deeper at the places that I consign with. Here are the specific places. Here's the income I got specifically from those places. What percentage of my consignment as a whole came from each place. So you can see which business got me the most income. And then same for wholesale. I think this one's off because I'm probably not accounting for one in here.
Okay.
So I probably need to add a new one. But yeah, there's probably
Not
another.
now.
There's
Don't
another
do
whole,
it now.
That's fine. There's another wholesale client. So some of these have conditions in here. Like if I input something wrong or I type, a consignment name wrong, it doesn't get categorized, but it adds it up as a consignment item. It kind of highlights it a certain color so that I know there's something wrong.
Damn.
And then online, you can see where the breakdown comes. This is almost not even necessary because, 90% of the online sales come from Etsy. But
yeah.
And then this is my comparison quarter over quarter, 2021 versus 2020. You can see the green versus red means positive, negative, whether I made money over that quarter versus last year or whatnot. And then you can see month to month. And this is all functions that are built in that are calculated based on the dates and the income data that I put into the sheet before it. And then this I just pulled from my 2020 data.
Everybody who's not seeing this is probably like, what the fuck, Ryan? I can't see anything. So he's got monthly income. So he's got like January, February, and that. So January, February, March, and April are all added together. And then they create a quarter one, which is in a separate box.
It's in a cell just for 2021 Q1.
Yeah.
This is how much money I made.
Yeah.
And then next to it, it's got 2020 Q1, this much. And then it does a difference between them. And it shows the green if I made money over the previous year. Red if I did not make money over the previous year.
Yeah. And it's just your general profit loss comparison sheet, monthly sales reports. So.
Yes. Yeah. And then the monthly, same thing. And you can see kind of how I'm trending for the year and then also compared to the previous years.
I thought you did like Okay, never mind. Moving on.
I told you this last year.
I thought it was 70.
I told you 60 last year.
Oh, okay.
And then the last part is the taxable sales. So this actually logs, because I pay my taxes quarterly. Kentucky, I pay them quarterly, my sales tax. Ohio, I pay them twice a year. So this gives me the total amount of money that was taxable as Kentucky sales for these quarters. And then I can use that as my guide for when I need to pay my quarterly sales tax. Charles is fucking on it.
The fuck? Charles?
It's 11:30 at night, Charles.
Charles has a cough today. Jeez.
And then this is the mileage sheet. This is basically what I explained. Date, from, to, miles, reason. And then I just keep some like popular places that I go to and how many miles it is from my home.
Oh, nice. That's smart.
So
That's really smart.
So I don't have to look it up. Otherwise, usually what I'll do, I'll just go to Google Maps, do here to there, see what the mileage distance is, double it because I'm going there and back, and that's all I do. So
yeah.
So this is still very manual. I need to probably put this into a form at some point, but it gets kind of weird because it's kind of cumbersome to. Sometimes I like to just jot down where I went, and then I will fill out the miles at a later point because I don't want to like put all that data in at once. It's kind of hard. It's good to just log something, and then I can go back and do the mileage, once a month or something.
Yeah, I just got really tired, and I think it's because of your spreadsheet.
Because it's too much.
It's a lot. It's fucking lot. It's a lot.
It is.
Wow, that's super intricate. Yeah, you basically just made QuickBooks for yourself.
Yes.
So,
And
good
then
job.
there's a firing calculator. You can fill that out. Number of firings. Do your math of how, whatever. And then it'll add it up. Yeah. So that balance sheet is everything together. I keep track of all the tax things that I am paying for over time. You know, all the paying my income taxes, paying my sales taxes, when I'm paying those, when the next ones are coming up. And yeah, that'll be good for me to show to my tax person when it comes the end of the year. All right. What other questions you got? Mic drop.
I have nothing. I think that I don't know if we can even continue because that was so much information.
What do you think is a good, like, what do you think? I obviously don't expect that from everybody. There's reasons that I do certain things in there. Obviously,
I do. I expect that from everybody.
You expect them to track all of that stuff?
That is exactly what you should be tracking. Everything in there is exactly what you need to be tracking.
I'm saying out of the gate. People that aren't currently tracking in a way and they're doing pen and paper or they're looking at receipts at the end of the year, what is a... Because I'm already deep in this. So, like, I've been habitually doing this for years.
Yeah.
If you had to implement this, how would you go about breaking it down and, like, starting to, you know, get yourself in the habit?
I have no idea. But I will say that the app that I told you about, Hurdler, does all of that too. It has expenses and income. It basically is what you just showed me, I think. And, yeah, you can, like, track all the things. So...
Yeah, there's definitely tools out there that do what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I would customize this to me and...
Yeah, I think that if you're not technically advanced like Ryan is, with the Google Sheets, I would potentially find an app that may be inexpensive or whatever, that would at least get you started, because then it makes you aware of what you need to be looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're starting from scratch and you're starting from just, like, putting things into a spreadsheet, you could be doing it wrong. You could be tracking stuff that you don't even need to be tracking. And I would maybe find just a cheap app just to see, even if it was just like a research project, to see like what you need, what is important, you know, what they have to like track all of the expenses. But man, I mean, yeah, I would honestly recommend this Hurdler app, honestly, or your lovely spreadsheet.
And then when I get this thing built out, and you could pay $5 or $10 for this
instead of
and
$60.
you could probably ask me questions directly, and I'll probably answer them for you.
Yeah, he's the best customer service you have.
I'm support. I am living this thing. I've used it.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, like, I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Ryan. But
I feel like it's overwhelming. Like, I've showed a couple people this. Like, I've showed I think a student-ish this, and, like, sent them a template. And they were so grateful, but they were like, oh my gosh. And then I talked to a few people about it, and they were like, how do I start using this?
Like, I wouldn't expect anything less from you. I am 150% impressed how accurate it is, and how, like, literally it has almost everything that you need in it. Yeah, you could sell that for money.
Is that, like...
Many monies.
Is that something realistic for people to use on a regular basis, or is it just
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've taken complexity out. I can probably, simplify it for people that just need the basics.
Yeah. Well, or no, or you don't, But, like, I think that the point is that some people are like you and some people are like me. I need everything to be automated or else I'll never do it.
So would you see yourself, if you didn't have QuickBooks, would you see yourself being able to use what I built in a way that benefits you and doesn't overwhelm you or doesn't?
I could use it. Would I use it? That's the question. Negative. I would not use it. I would have to get something that's automatic. I would have to get something that imports my credit card and like knows my expenses. Like, I would have to do something that's auto because I'm not the type that could keep on top of it.
Yeah.
So
you have to manually spend the time to input data.
So I think that's the thing. I think that's one of the biggest things to get out of this podcast, actually, is that you need to figure out what type of human being you are. If you are I will make the time to manually put this in. And, like, when I get into my car and just be like, boop, 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 just bought this. Or if you're one of those people that's like, I can't do that. I'll get to it once every 3 months and then make sure all of it's correct because I remembered all that shit. Like, that's me. Like, I will look at QuickBooks for the last year and remember almost every single expense. But that's because that's how my brain works,
Yeah. Well, your credit card and stuff, it knows who the vendor was because it logs it as part of the transaction.
Sometimes.
And it knows... I mean, some of them are obscured and they're kind of weird, right? And you got to remember, like, what the hell was that for? What date was it?
Yeah, exactly.
What would I have been spending money on around that time?
Yeah, my biggest thing was income. It was like, what's this random number for? I don't remember.
Oh, like,
and like
it's a check deposit or something, and it just says check deposit. It doesn't say if
it wasn't like categorized correctly
from.
Or it was like a square sale and it wasn't categorized correctly.
That's the part I would miss too. Like, I'm obviously getting checks from like consignment and stuff, and I'm photographing them and putting them in there, but they don't have any kind of category. So I don't really know how much I'm making in consignment if I'm not logging it in that way. You have to break it down somehow.
Yeah.
You have to document it somehow.
Right. Yeah, and so like a check I would put into QuickBooks and it would document it. So it would be fine. But, or I would send an invoice to them and they would pay via that. But yeah, like, I definitely think your system is amazing for people that are able to do manual stuff like that. But if you're not a person that can do manual stuff like that, I would recommend something like Hurdler. It's HURDLR. Or QuickBooks or something like that. So, it's like you just have to know who you are. Like this, where it's like the 2021 miles and stuff, where it's like logging miles. It says that I have 5,807 potential deductions. Do you remember the last time that I actually categorized where these miles were was probably 3 months ago. Like,
so it probably tracked every single, like, our whole trip. And it's like,
yep.
You want to categorize this trip.
Yep. Yeah, it tracks everything. It tracks when I fucking fly. Like. Yeah.
That's funny. I wonder if there's like a speed like delimiter that it's like, you are flying right now, so we're not going to categorize that because you literally just went 1,000 miles in 3 hours. Like.
Yeah, I don't know, because, I don't remember it, but, I mean, obviously I would never track a plane flight for driving. Yeah, but...
I think, you need to track it. I feel like batching it up and doing it a couple times a year, or doing it, like, quarterly...
Yeah.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, obviously. Like, doing it quarterly might be a good goal for you. And
or
then going
monthly.
to monthly. And then going to, like, weekly. It becomes like you're doing 2 tasks a week instead of doing 8 tasks in a month, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think it's really important to like set that time aside. If there's like just if you're new at this, start now so that you are like it's a consistent habit for you to be like every Tuesday night I sit down at 8:00 and I go over all of my like when I was doing the business, it was every month on the like at the beginning of the month I would always do QuickBooks and go over it. So, yeah.
I tend to do mine on like weekend mornings. Usually what I'll do if I haven't logged something, if it's an email, I'll either leave that email unread. So if it's like an invoice I sent to someone and they paid for something, I'll leave that email unread until I log it in my tracking. If it's marked as read, then it's been logged. If it's a check I got from a consignment shop, I will go ahead and cash it or put it into my deposit, and then I'll put it into a pile, and that pile normally gets, 3 checks or something, and then by that time I will log that check usually I log it into the system when I snap the photo and deposit it, but I do have the checks on the side because normally they itemize out what I sell, and I track that stuff as well. And I keep paper records normally of the shops and what inventory they have. And then I'm checking off like each piece that's selling separately. So that's not even inside my income stuff. That's just so I know what pieces those shops have. That's overwhelming too. I got to keep up with tallying that stuff off so that by the time it comes to restock them, I know what has sold and what does well, what doesn't do well, and what they might be asking for. So
yeah.
I try to do that, like, I probably do that logging, like, once a month.
Yeah.
Because that's like, just extra stuff. That's not necessary to log, necessarily.
Yeah.
But, just keeping something in the vicinity of where you're going to see it, or putting it in a specific pile, so that like, this is what I need to take care of. And just making a habit of it. Like I said, the Google form, like it's a bookmark on my computer. I also have a tab always open on my phone, in my browser on my phone. Like I always have a tab that's there that has that form, and I can go into each one of those forms and fill them out real quick, submit it.
I'm surprised you don't have them as an icon.
I don't know. I never did that. Like make them a home icon kind of thing.
Yeah.
I probably should, actually. It's good to mention.
Don't do it now.
Maybe I can do it now. Maybe I can do it now. Do they have an add to homepage thing?
Yeah. They should.
I don't know. All right.
Yeah, I really do think the form situation is such a great idea.
I feel like I kind of got that from... I think Rebecca uses that with her QR codes.
She does.
And that's basically the same thing. The QR code is a website URL.
Yeah.
You scan it, it goes to a website, which is a Google form. You fill it out, it puts it in a spreadsheet or wherever it goes. I don't know where it goes, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that's where I got that idea from.
Yeah, she posted on her stories years ago. Yeah. It was back when she was in the other studio. So.
Yeah, I think that was when I started doing it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Smarty pants. Do we have anything else to talk about? I feel like this is going to be a short episode. Plus, it's also
I don't think so. I mean, reach out to me and let me know if you're interested in something like this. Maybe that's going to put a fire under my ass to actually make it happen.
You could put it on Etsy as a digital file.
I could. I feel like it's a... I don't really want to do it through Etsy, though. I'd kind of rather have it as like a... I could probably make it a checkout thing on my website.
Yeah.
And it would go through Square. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. It's one of those things that come up that you're like, I can put all this effort in, but you don't get paid until you get it finished. And then you don't really know how much it's going to be bought and how much it's going to make you. So it's like, I know if I make pottery, I can sell it and I will make money on it. But if I do all this, what is the market for this specific thing? How do I advertise it? And how do I sell it that people know?
Well, I think the question is this. Do you want to help people or do you want to make money off of it?
I want to help people, but I want it to be in a way that is consumable that will also cut down the number of questions that I could get from people by letting the cat out of the bag. Because once I release it to people, I'm opening myself up to a lot of people using it and then therefore asking me a lot of questions of things that go wrong or things they don't understand. And I don't want to have all those questions necessarily, or I want to keep them to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to explain myself thoroughly enough that they understand what to do with it. So.
Yeah.
But I feel like the people that are going to use it are probably going to be fairly technically savvy that can go to a website, fill out a form, and they kind of understand what's going on.
Do not assume that. That is
everyone,
stupid
but
assumption.
I'm saying the people that are going to log stuff by going to a Google form and filling it out are probably going to be people that are already comfortable on their phone, right?
I'm not sure I would assume that. I don't assume anything anymore.
I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying.
Hi, Marvel.
Marbs.
Marbs. Hi, Marvel.
All right.
Oh,
yeah,
can I tell you something that's completely off the topic?
No.
Lloyd licked Babs today.
Nice.
Like
Where
he
at? like on her head?
Yeah, like on her head, like to clean her face. And then he backed away quickly because he knew he was going to get hit. But he didn't.
Babs.
Miss Babble.
So he's testing his limits.
Yeah, I call her Miss Sniffles.
Why is that?
Because she's got a cold.
Okay. Cats have allergies and seasonal colds.
No, she's got the herp. She's got kitty herpes.
Is that a real thing, or are you just making that up? What are you?
No, that's for reals. She's got kitty herpes.
Oh, because you went to the vet.
Yeah, apparently cats have herpes. Lots of cats have herpes, and she's having a flare-up because it's caused by stress, which would happen if you were a cat that was abandoned and out on the streets for a month.
And then there's another cat near you.
And then there's another cat who is hissing at you for no fucking reason. Just because you have the devil inside you, apparently.
Apparently. Marvel's trying to get comfortable here. All right. Anything else? I feel like it's a short one, but I feel like it's packed.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will have an issue with it being short. They're going to have to listen to it again. They're going to be like, what the fuck just happened?
What the hell were they talking about? That's why I was worried about this being an audio format, because it's like, don't know what this is going to come across like.
Yeah, you're going to have to do a few, screenshots, and then you can, cross out the information.
Mm-hmm.
And put them on the Instagram.
The Instagrams.
I have to remember to say that it's on the Instagram before the episode starts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And check out the Patreon if you want to see what we're actually talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy way. He goes
As
through
we're talking
everything.
about it.
So, yep. Yeppity yep, yeppers.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Yo, higgity, yo. It's Becca here. Hey, just so you know, thank you for listening. And also, we have... What do we have again? A Patreon. We have a Patreon that you should go, and if you want to donate to, you could donate to it. If you don't, that's cool too. But just Google Wheel Talk Podcast Patreon. Don't do the other one, because there is a Wheel Talk on Patreon, but it's not us. So make sure you get the right one. It's in the show notes. And also, leave us a review because they're fun to read. Okay, bye!